This is TWiT.
I wanted to talk about how, and I'm trying to figure out how to not trigger everybody's. I'll say it once. I'll try to say it once and then maybe spell it after that. Getting a smarter Siri. There we go. I said it once, and I'll try to be nice about the rest of it. So Apple has promised us this smarter smart assistants for a while now, back when we learned about Apple Intelligence in 2024, and we haven't gotten it yet. This assistant has not really become what we were promised. It hasn't become that super intuitive, helper on your phone. But Apple is finally going to hopefully figure it out by partnering with Google. So according to Bloomberg, Apple is planning to pay around $1 billion a year for this AI model developed by Google. We've heard a lot about Gemini, and it's kind of everywhere these days, and everywhere will soon include your iPhone, apparently. So Apple's kind of shopped around a bit. They also reportedly looked into OpenAI's ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude, but ultimately decided to go with Google earlier this year. And this is just going to be a much more powerful model than anything that Apple has right now. So Gemini would handle Siri's summarizer and planner functions, essentially help it process information and figure out how to carry more complex tasks. We were kind of told a while ago it would be able to function across apps and actually get things done for you in the way that an AI assistant should actually be an assistant, right? So hopefully that happens soon. The plan is for upcoming spring. And then some other Siri functions will still use, I'm sorry, I lied there. I said it again, but we'll use Apple's in-house models. And so the key thing here too is that this model will run on Apple's private cloud compute server. So Google wouldn't have access to user data. So that's still, Apple keeping with that pledge for privacy that people care about, which of course Google pledges to, but Apple's like, this is ours, don't worry.
Known for it, yeah.
Exactly. And the thing here, there's one really interesting caveat is, according to this Bloomberg article, Apple will treat Google as a behind-the-scenes technology supplier, so that it's kind of this behind-the-scenes thing versus something that they're just blatantly telling you, oh, this is a Google Gemini thing. And part of the reason for that is they're not planning to use Gemini for the long term. They're kind of it's kind of the stopgap of like, okay, let's use Gemini for now while we continue to develop our own in-house models as well. And so it's not necessarily going to be Gemini baked into Siri as this chatbot. That never really materialized. It'll be more of a behind-the-scenes thing. You're not going to see, Google AI search woven into Apple's operating systems either. So, Mikah, I have a two-part question here, because there's two things at play. There's Gemini, and then there's Siri. Sorry, I have to say it one more time. So, what are your experiences with Google's Gemini offerings? Is that something that you lean on? But then also, how often do you use Siri, and do you think you'll use that more with this integration?
I love this question because it was actually going to be what I would kick off in talking to you about in the first place regarding Gemini. I was kind of curious, and we'll talk more about it, your thoughts on Gemini, because I was just talking to Anthony Nielsen the other day. He is one of the producers and editors and graphic designers here at TWiT, and we were talking about Gemini. I can't remember what tool he was using specifically, but I said, I have been very impressed with the stuff that Google's Gemini team has done. Yeah. And there have been times where I don't get the responses or the experience that I'm expecting from some of the other AI offerings out there. And Gemini somehow comes through, and it does so quicker than some of the other options that are out there. And that's been very impressive to me. Yeah. I think that Google's kind of killing it and doing a great job with what Gemini is able to provide. I think in particular, because the company is so it exists as a consumer-focused company, right? Where for years it has brought these products to the consumer, and some will say, maybe not as much of a focus on the consumer because of its ad business and blah, blah, blah. But that's beside the point here. Yeah. I think that played a good role when it came to creating AI technologies for people
Definitely.
to use. Whereas you see from the other companies, you know, the OpenAIs, and to some extent, like Claude's offerings, Anthropic's offerings, we've got this great technology, we're doing great things with it, but what does that look like for a user at the other end that in many cases is not a developer? Yeah. And that's where they can flounder, or if not flounder, just not do as good of a job. I think that has helped Google, and therefore, yeah, Gemini, I think, is pretty impressive in providing results that people actually want. Yeah. And I compare that with the results that I have seen from what Apple provides right now. And I don't use any of the Apple stuff, save for the Genmoji. That's the one thing. But in my opinion, in terms of like, if we keep it in this context and in this vacuum, that's the easiest thing to get right, because you can train something very specifically, right? And even still, it doesn't necessarily always do. I have to, you know, make adjustments all the time to get it to work. But yeah, I don't use those Apple offerings, and Apple hasn't nailed it yet. And with what I've seen from Google, very impressed. Now, the flip side of that is your second, the second part of your question. I have a question and a follow-up, is that it is, Siri is and has been for the longest time. Honestly, folks, you should have the Hey
I agree.
version turned on. That's just
make our lives easier. Yeah.
Apple's virtual assistant, I don't use because it is a disappointment. I found
some web results. I can show them if you.
Oh my God, you did it.
No, stop talking to me, please.
See, that's what happens when we talk smack, is it comes back to us. Yeah.
Says, hey, listen here. But I don't use the voice controls, save for setting timers on my watch when I'm cooking food and dictation, but that isn't even really interacting with it. That is simply sort of responding with my voice to a message. So I don't even really count that as sort of voice computing. Yeah. So I don't know if the voice aspect, because I'll be honest too, I don't really use the voice aspects that much of the virtual assistants either. Yeah. I'm not having a back and forth conversation with them. So I don't see myself using that part of it. However, Apple has termed its offerings of intelligence as this, or they've called all of it SIRI, right? Like all of the internal smarts have been named up to this point SIRI. I think it's changed a little bit with AI now, Apple Intelligence. But given that, what I mean is this smarter version of that virtual assistant that is supposed to have more knowledge of what's going on, I do and could see myself using that because I remember watching the Made by Google event and going, at several of the things that, you know, if I could ignore the awkward cringeness of the situation that they announced, and I'm going, those are actually helpful features that I would love to see on my device. So yeah, I think that Apple's making the right choice in that way, going with what Google provides, because I've been impressed with what Gemini had to offer. It's weird how I said all of that in one sentence there at the end, and maybe that's all I needed to say.
No, I loved following your thought process because it really echoes mine. Like, it echoes everything I feel, in the sense that, especially when you're reviewing phones all the time, when I just have my iPhone on me, I'm like, God, I wish I had an Android on me so I could summon Gemini. Like, this happens all the time. I don't even bother with SIRI. Like, I genuinely cannot think of the last time I intentionally triggered it without accidentally pushing a button. So to have that actually within the iPhone would be a game changer and beneficial for everybody, beneficial for users, for people even like me who are kind of AI skeptics who are like, why would I use this? But then you actually use it and you're like, wait, actually, this is helpful. It's helpful for like Gemini Live is great for like brainstorming and stuff. But even when I just want an answer to like, what's the best way to get a perfume stain out of my dress? You know, like things like that, where I'm like, I want some detailed answers. I'm not going to ask SIRI. I'm going to ask Gemini, and Gemini's going to give me so much more detail. So I think having that baked into the phone will be really great. And I'm also curious to see what Apple continues to develop, because they say they're going to keep pushing their models. But guess what? Google's also going to keep pushing its models.
Exactly.
And that's just going to get better. And Apple's going to have to still try to catch up to all that. So best of luck.
Best of luck. With all the money that they have, they really need to attract the talent and make that happen. Like I don't see any other way of pulling that off other than getting some of these people to come do that at Apple.
Absolutely.
The last thing I'll say about it is interesting given the ongoing ability, at least as things stand, for Google and Apple to have the search deal in place, which is $1 billion deal. And so it's almost now going to be a potential swapsies situation of Google offering Gemini, Apple offering this. And I wonder what impact that's going to have on Apple's bottom line, where before it was just $1 billion to be able to have default search set up. That's like so easy on Apple's part. Now that money isn't there, and the company's going to have to sort of reconcile with then $1 billion expenditure. I think it'll keep the company motivated to reclaim that money from the search deal that's been in place for so long. So interesting.
It's funny how like in Entangled they actually are behind the scenes and will continue to be. But you know what? Your text will always still be green between phones. That to change.
They'll still fight with each other on the outside.
That will always stay the same.
You enjoying this tiny taste of Tech News Weekly? I'm happy to hear it. You can check out the full show on our website, twit.tv/TNW, or you can watch it right here on YouTube. Just click the link below.